Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, I'm doing a speed rundown of the first Doctor for the 12 Doctors of Christmas special that I'm doing for this year. Be sure to check back tomorrow for my rundown of the second Doctor, and every day after that until Christmas Day. Just a reminder, there will be spoilers in this. I will try not to reveal too much in the interest of brevity, but I will have to say some parts of the plots. With that, let's begin. It all starts in a scrapyard at 76 Todders Lane, where the Doctor parked his TARDIS while in 1963, and where Susan, the Doctor's granddaughter, returns from a day at school. Her teachers, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright, stake out at the scrapyard waiting for her, having discovered that she lived there days earlier. When they go to find her, they discover a police box, and when an old man exits and they hear Susan's voice, they demand that he let them inside the box. The man refuses, but another shout from Susan sends the two teachers barging in, and they join Susan in becoming the first companions of the first Doctor. In anger, and out of fear that Susan will leave with the teachers, the Doctor sets the TARDIS off, and the group wind up in 10,000 BC, where a group of cavemen are trying to rediscover how to make fire, a skill that was known by one man, but he has since passed, and left the group scrambling to try and figure it out. After being captured and recaptured, the group escapes to the TARDIS, and sets off to a new planet in a petrified forest. They wander outside to explore the new planet, and fail to notice that the radiation meter is heading towards dangerous. After seeing an advanced city in the distance, the Doctor tricks his new friends into going to explore it under the ruse of needing Mercury for the TARDIS. But once in the city, they discover that they are on the planet Skaro as they meet the Daleks for the first time. The group is captured, and they all start to get sick from the radiation poisoning. Susan is sent back to the TARDIS for some medicine, and once she's there, she meets the Thals, a peaceful race of people who are the enemies of the Daleks. They are a race of pacifists, but they are convinced to lead a revolt against the Daleks and overthrow them, allowing the group to escape back to the TARDIS. Next, the TARDIS makes everyone freak out. They next land in the Himalayas and accompany Marco Polo on his journey down the Silk Road to see Kublai Khan. After Marco Polo originally takes the TARDIS as a prize, they win his respect and are allowed to leave with it. They next arrive on the planet Marinus and are asked, or more like forced, to help this planet in its fight against the Vord by finding 5 keys hidden around their world. They succeed in finding the keys, but things take a turn for the worse when they try to deliver them. The TARDIS next brings them to the ancient world where they meet the Aztecs. Barbara becomes mistaken for the Aztec goddess Yetaxa and accepts the identity to try and persuade the Aztecs to give up human sacrifice. However, the Doctor warns her about the danger in changing history, and in the meantime gets accidentally engaged before the group is able to get to their trapped TARDIS in a sealed temple and escape. Their next adventure brings them to the Sense Sphere, similar to the Ood Sphere, where a race called the Sensorites live. The Sensorites are a telepathic race and have been taken advantage of by the humans in the past. They ask the Doctor and his friends to help them combat a deadly disease that's affecting them, but some of the Sensorites don't want the humans' help and attempt to kill them. The group learns the cause of the disease and they help the Sensorites to find a cure. The TARDIS team next appear during the French Revolution and are immediately captured and sent to Paris to be guillotined, except for the Doctor, who was accidentally left behind. He tries to free his friends, but learns that they have escaped. Once the group is back together, they flee in the confusion and excitement of the Reign of Terror. Following a malfunction on the TARDIS console, the Doctor insists that nothing is wrong, but upon exploring their new surroundings, they realize that they have shrunken down to about an inch in size. They overhear a plot to release a powerful new insecticide called DN6, and Barbara gets very sick from it when she accidentally touches a seed that's been contaminated with it. But they manage to cause a stir by creating an explosion and get the men responsible caught by the police. Barbara recovers when she is returned to her normal size. The next story featured the very first return of an enemy in Doctor Who, as the Daleks return to take over the Earth. The TARDIS lands in London, but they soon discover it in ruins, and find out that the year is sometime after 2164. Ian and the Doctor go to explore, while Barbara and Susan stay behind and are captured by the Resistance fighters. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Ian are captured by the Daleks, and learn that they have been converting captured humans into Robomen, human slaves with no emotion. Before the Daleks can convert the Doctor, the Resistance fighters attack the Daleks, and the Doctor is saved by Susan while Barbara and Ian get separated. Barbara is captured by the Daleks, and learns that their plan is to dig through the Earth's crust so that they can blow out its core. and then use a guidance system to pilot the planet around space like a living spaceship. Barbara is rescued by the Doctor and Susan, along with a resistance fighter named David, and they destroy the machine controlling the Robomen, causing them to go wild. The Doctor and Barbara give the Robomen new orders to attack the Daleks, and they lead a rebellion against them. As they prepare to leave, David declares his love for Susan and asks her to marry him. Clearly conflicted, the Doctor shuts the TARDIS doors and tells Susan that she deserves a real life with David. He tells her that he will someday come back. Susan walks away with David to start her new life, leaving her TARDIS key behind. The Doctor and Barbara and Ian are still missing Susan when the TARDIS lands on a planet that the Doctor recognizes as Dido, and they meet two people stranded from a ship crash, Vicky and Bennett. The pair are waiting for a rescue ship that will arrive in 3 days, but there is an alien named Coquillion who has been tormenting them, and the natives from Dido have killed the rest of their crew members, including Vicky's father. The Doctor discovers that Bennett was actually a prisoner on board the ship and escaped during the crash, killing the survivors and framing the native Dido, including posing as Coquillion to convince Vicky of their dilemma. The Doctor watches as two natives of Dido kill Bennett and deactivate the beacon for the rescue ship. With nothing to go back to now, Vicky is welcomed onto the TARDIS. Vicky's first trip in the TARDIS is to ancient Rome, where the four travelers have decided to take a little vacation in an unoccupied villa. After the Doctor and Vicky leave for a trip to the city, Ian and Barbara are captured and sold into slavery. Barbara is sent to the court of Nero and Ian escapes, only to later be captured and turned into a gladiator. Meanwhile, on the way to Rome, Vicky and the Doctor find a dead lyre player, and the Doctor impersonates him to get into Nero's court. When he cannot play, he is sentenced to the lions, but when he accidentally sets plans of the city on fire, he gives Nero the idea for the Great Fire of Rome, and Nero spares his life. While this is happening, Ian escapes again and sneaks into the palace to free Barbara. The four travelers meet back up at the villa, unaware of each other's adventures, and they all leave in the TARDIS, but a strange force pulls the ship off course. They land on a strange planet that the Doctor identifies as Vortis. Here they meet two races of bug people, the Menoptera, bipedal mothmen, and the Zarbi, giant ant creatures. The two races are native to the planet, but recently an evil force called the Animus, a great spider creature, has used the Zarbi to take over the planet. With a lot of help, they are able to assist the Menoptera in defeating the Animus. The four travelers return to Earth again to join the Crusade in Jerusalem, 12th century Palestine. Barbara is immediately captured in a Saracen ambush and is presented to the Sultan Saladin. Ian is knighted Sir Ian of Jaffa by King Richard, so that he may go and try to rescue her. Once he succeeds in freeing Barbara, they return to the Doctor and they all escape in the TARDIS. They next arrive in a massive space museum on the planet Zeros, but they have jumped a time track, and as a result, they can see but cannot be seen by any of the people in the museum, which comprises the militaristic Morocks who run the museum, as well as the servile indigenous Zerons who work for them. The TARDIS team finds many interesting things in this museum, including a Dalek casing, before finding a glass case that includes themselves. Soon after this, the time track slips back and the display of them vanishes, but they are now in the museum. After getting separated, Vicky meets the Zerons and leads the revolt against the Morocks, but after all four of the TARDIS team are captured and they are about to be frozen for display, the Zerons take down the Morocks and the group slips back to their TARDIS. Later, the team is resting on the desert planet Iridius, when they use the Doctor's space-time visualizer to see the Daleks planning to take the TARDIS. They scramble to leave but are soon captured. However, they manage to escape back to the TARDIS, and what follows is a massive chase through space and time, as the Daleks are determined to track down the Doctor with the time machines of their own making. They make stops at the Empire State Building, the Mary Celeste in the Atlantic Ocean, and a house full of Dracula and Frankenstein where they accidentally leave Vicky behind. However, she is able to sneak onto the Daleks' time machine and meets back up with the Doctor on the jungle world of Mechanus. The four decide to explore a vast metal structure in the jungle, but are captured by robot mechanoids and thrown into prison with a man named Stephen Taylor, an astronaut from Earth who crashed on the planet 2 years before. As the Daleks attack the city, the group escapes with Stephen, and eventually lose him in the excitement. On the way back to the TARDIS, they find an abandoned Dalek time machine, and Ian and Barbara convince the Doctor to teach them how to operate it so that they may return home. They get back to London 2 years after they left, and destroy the time machine that they used. The Doctor and Vicky return to the TARDIS. They soon find Stephen in the TARDIS, and he joins the team to replace Ian and Barbara. The TARDIS lands on a beach, and after going to town, the Doctor learns it's 1066. But when he meets a monk, he discovers a room containing modern appliances and is locked in a cell. Stephen and Vicky later come by and ask about the Doctor, and the monk tries to convince them that he has not seen him, but fails. They break in that night, but the Doctor has already escaped. They return to the monastery and find a sarcophagus with a power cable coming out of it, and realize that it is the monk's TARDIS, and he has come from the same place as the Doctor. Meanwhile, the Doctor learns that the monk's plan is to destroy the Vikings in 1066 so that Western civilization will prosper, but the Doctor accuses him of being a time meddler and tampers with the monk's TARDIS, making it inoperable. When the monk's plan fails, he returns to the TARDIS and finds a note from the Doctor telling him his meddling days are over. After leaving Earth, they arrive on a planet in Galaxy 4 and are confronted by little robots that Vicky calls Chumblies. They meet a race of all-female clones called the Dravins from the planet Drava, also in Galaxy 4, and learn that they are at war with a race of reptiles called Rills, who control the Chumblies. Both races have crashed spaceships on the planet, and the Dravins claim that the Rills have been the aggressors, but the Doctor has his doubts. They learn that the planet will explode in 2 days' time, and the Dravins want to capture the Rills' ship since theirs is inoperable. The Doctor meets the Rills and learns that the Dravins were offered help by the Rills but refused it, preferring to continue their war. The Doctor decides to help the Rills repair their ship, and the Dravins perish when the planet explodes. Vicky looks out the window at a planet and wonders what is happening there. The TARDIS next appears in ancient Troy, and when the Doctor comes out of the TARDIS, he is mistaken for the god Zeus and taken away, and Stephen follows him to try and help. Meanwhile, the TARDIS is carted off by Paris into the city of Troy as a prize for King Priam. But when the prophet Cassandra declares it to be dangerous and orders it to be burned, Vicky exits the TARDIS, and the king and Paris become infatuated with her, which enrages Cassandra. Her handmaiden, Katerina, speaks up for Vicky. When Vicky sees Stephen, she greets him by name and gets the both of them imprisoned as spies. However, she tries to persuade Troilus, the king's son, to get them freed, since the two have become attached. Meanwhile, the Doctor persuades Odysseus to create a giant wooden horse for his men, and Odysseus follows the advice. And when the Greek army disappears the next morning, Vicky is released, and she frees Stephen, who urges her to tell Troilus to leave Troy to save him. That night, the Doctor exits the Trojan horse with the Greeks, and the TARDIS team, along with Katerina, escape the city in the attack, with Stephen badly wounded. They leave in the TARDIS, but Vicky has stayed behind after speaking with the Doctor, and she walks through the plains to be with Troilus. Meanwhile, Stephen is in need of urgent care, and Katerina thinks she has died and is on a journey through the afterlife. They land on the planet Kemble, and the Doctor leaves to find medical aid for Stephen, but a space agent named Brett Vion comes aboard the TARDIS and demands at gunpoint to be taken off the planet. He cures Stephen, and they agree to work with him to warn the Earth of the Dalek-led alliance meeting on this planet. The Daleks are trying to build a weapon called the Time Destructor, and one of the Alliance members has brought them the rare Terranium that they need. The Doctor manages to steal the Terranium, and they escape, but in the ensuing chaos, something happens to Katerina. No spoilers here. The group lands on Earth, and soon meet another space agent, Sarah Kingdom, who kills Brett Vion and demands the Terranium. They manage to escape before being captured by the Daleks, but the Doctor gives them a fake Terranium core, and they are able to get away in the TARDIS. The Daleks realize the core is fake and set off again to capture them. Meanwhile, the Doctor runs into the meddling monk again and gets his TARDIS damaged, forcing him to stop for repairs in ancient Egypt, where he is followed by the Daleks and the monk. He is then forced to give over the Terranium to the Daleks, but manages to steal the directional control from the monk's TARDIS so he can return to Kemble and stop the Daleks. On Kemble, the Doctor activates the Time Destructor, causing time to run very fast within its vicinity, and the team races back to the TARDIS as the Daleks try to destroy the Time Destructor, but it runs out of control, killing everything on the planet, along with Sarah Kingdom, who is aged to death feet away from the TARDIS. Stephen and the Doctor mourn the loss of their friends. They next end up in France in 1572, and tension between Catholics and Protestants is boiling over. After meeting some people, including an abbot who looks just like the Doctor, and a serving girl named Anne Chaplet, the Doctor and Stephen manage to leave right before the events of St. Bartholomew's Eve massacre. But Stephen becomes distraught over leaving Anne behind to die, and decides to leave the Doctor when they next land. But when they do, a young girl mistakes the TARDIS for a real police box and enters it to report an accident, introducing herself as Dodo Chaplet, which makes Stephen reconsider leaving. Stephen tells the Doctor that there are police approaching, and the Doctor hurriedly dematerializes, not realizing that Dodo is still with them, but she doesn't seem to mind. Now with Dodo, Stephen and the Doctor land on a massive colony ship carrying survivors from Earth, on their way to a new planet that will take 700 years to get to. With them are a race of aliens called monoids who act as their servants. The human survivors have no immunity to the common cold, which Dodo unfortunately has, and soon many of them become deathly ill, but the Doctor is able to find a cure for them and saves the colony. When the TARDIS next materializes, they are on the same ship but 700 years later, and the monoids have taken over the humans as the dominant race, and now enslave the humans. Once they arrive on the new planet, the Doctor teams up with the indigenous population of the planet to drive out the monoids and forge an alliance with the humans. The group leaves, but a strange alien intelligence invades the TARDIS, rendering the first Doctor invisible, and when Dodo and Stephen exit the TARDIS, they enter the strange realm of the Celestial Toymaker, an eternal being of infinite power that sets games and traps for the unwary to make them his playthings. The Toymaker gives the Doctor a puzzle to solve, which requires 1023 moves to be made in perfect sequence. While he does this, Dodo and Stephen face different challenges. Once they finish their tasks, they are reunited with the Doctor and sent into the TARDIS to be safe, while the Doctor finishes the puzzle and defeats the Toymaker and his world, for the moment. They next appear in Tombstone, Arizona, where they meet the famous Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, and somehow end up in the shootout at the OK Corral, but manage to slip away. They materialize on a planet in the future that is inhabited by an idyllic civilization called the Elders, and bands of roaming savages. The Elders seem great until it's revealed that they take the life force from the savages to survive. The Doctor tries to stop them from doing this, but they react by putting him through the process to gain his intelligence. The process backfires, however, and the Doctor's personality takes over the Elder, giving him the Doctor's morality. Stephen and Dodo find the Doctor injured and help him back to the TARDIS, and they team up with the savages to fight back against the Elders. But the Doctor realizes that for true change, the two sides have to talk to each other. They destroy the energy machines, and the Doctor asks Stephen to stay on the planet as a mediator for the two races, which he accepts. The Doctor and Dodo bid him goodbye. Next, the TARDIS once again lands in London, 1966, but the Doctor doesn't like the energy readings he's getting from a new radio tower behind the new Wotan system, or Will operating through analog, an advanced supercomputer that can think for itself. At the tower, they meet its creator, Professor Brett, and his secretary, Polly. That night, Dodo goes to a nightclub with Polly and meets a young Marine named Ben. Wotan begins to hypnotize people, somehow, as part of its plan to take over the world, Terminator style, and succeeds in hypnotizing Dodo. But when she attempts to get the Doctor under Wotan's control as well, he realizes that she is hypnotized and breaks the control. Dodo then goes to recuperate. As Wotan sends war machines out to destroy the city of London, the Doctor captures one and reprograms it to destroy Wotan. As the Doctor prepares to leave, Polly and Ben find him to inform him that Dodo has decided to stay behind. The Doctor thanks them and enters his TARDIS, but when Polly and Ben enter it as well to give him Dodo's key, they are swept along with him as the TARDIS dematerializes. The new trio arrive in 17th century Cornwall and get mixed up in the pirates' plan to find lost gold. We're almost done, so I'm not going to go into this one. It's pirates. They get away. Lastly, the Doctor materializes in Antarctica, and they enter the nearby snow-capped base. The base is monitoring a spacecraft orbiting the Earth, and strange readings lead them to the discovery of a new planet on a collision course for Earth. The Doctor tells them that the planet is called Mondas, and it is the sister planet of the Earth, and he predicts that the inhabitants will be visiting them soon. Sure enough, the base is soon overrun with Cybermen, who tell them that they are absorbing the energy from the Earth to revitalize their planet, and the Earth will soon be destroyed. But the Cybermen will convert the humans into Cybermen so that they may join them on Mondas. However, the best plan seems to be to just play for time, as before the Earth is destroyed, Mondas absorbs too much energy and destroys itself, deactivating all of the Cybermen. The Doctor, seeming to be in distress, leaves the base without Ben and Polly, and returns to the TARDIS, locking them out. They pound on the door and he opens it, before collapsing on the TARDIS floor and beginning his regeneration. So, that was my speed run summary of the first Doctor's tenure in the TARDIS. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos every week, including a summary of the second Doctor's run tomorrow, and every Doctor between then until Christmas Eve, as part of my 12 Doctors of Christmas special. As always, thank you for being my companions on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.